It is the perfect debate for New Englanders. Where is the best, most coveted spot to cool off during the summer? The lake or the ocean? 6 states in New England, of course, and so many of them have both options, and people are pretty passionate about which one they are more loyal to. So, which would you choose? And to help us with this debate, we have with us on the WBZ studio here from Yankee Magazine, executive editor Ian Aldrich, representing Team Lake.
Team
Ian,
Lake.
Thanks for being here. And arguing for Team Ocean, senior food editor Amy Traverso. Thank you so much for being here.
Ian.
We'll have a gentlemanly shake of hands. But as you know, this debate can separate families at times during the summertime.
Geographically.
That's right. That's right. So, ladies first, Amy.
Okay.
Tell us why it has to be the ocean.
Okay, first I would argue for this healing power of salt air and salt water. Ponds and lakes are nice. They're very comforting. I don't feel at the end of a day at a lake that my soul has been scrubbed away. Oceans are the gateway to the world. You could go from Boston to Rome, but meanwhile, on a lake, you're stuck on the same lake no matter how long you travel. I would argue that the sound of the waves, the seagulls, the smell of the grass, there's just this multi-sensory experience. The largest lake in the world is so embarrassed to be a lake, it calls itself the Caspian Sea. And I would argue that the Great Lakes are great because they most closely resemble the ocean.
Wow, that is a convincing argument. But Ian, make the case for a lake vacation.
Well, with all due respect to my friend and colleague across the aisle, you know, I feel bad for ocean seekers because there's a hole in their soul. They're constantly seeking. They're trying to satisfy something. Lake people, we are content with who we are and where we are.
Settling.
We are no.
You're
fine.
placid.
No, we're just, you know,
like Lake Placid.
Chilling out on a tube in the middle of the lake. I mean, have you read any of the wonderful quotes from the Dalai Lama about being on a lake? I haven't either, but I'm sure they're out there because he looks like a lake person.
All right, in that case, I know you hail from New Hampshire, but what are your favorite lakes?
Oh, well, that's easy.
In New Hampshire
what
or
I love
anywhere
about
in
lakes
New
is
England.
because lakes pack, there's so many different identities associated with lakes. Lake Winnipesaukee is one of my favorites. You can bring boats. It's a real strong boating culture. You can go up to Moosehead Lake in Maine. You're out in the outdoors. You're in the wilderness. Squam Lake in New Hampshire is very quiet. I have a personal favorite, my hometown lake, Dublin Lake, which Amy has visited many times.
I'll acknowledge it's lovely.
And now appears to be disparaging.
Apparently, I don't know if she gets the invite next time.
Amy, what are your favorite beaches at the ocean?
Okay, any bay beach on the Cape. I'm a bay beach person, but more specifically, Burton Baker Beach in Wellfleet is amazing. Good Harbor Beach and Winger Chic Beach on the North Shore. I would say Crescent Beach in Owl's Head, Maine, Agunquit Beach, Popham Beach, Goose Rocks Beach are all wonderful.
I would say.
And the same.
I'm going to chime in because I have children. I have children that went to camp in New Hampshire. Lake Ossipee and Lake Winnipesaukee, amazing. But also Goose Rocks Beach in Maine. And I would argue one of my favorites, Mayflower Beach, and also Coast Guard Beach up on the National Seashore.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to the food because that's what we're really going to the beach for. Amy, what are your favorite oceanside restaurants?
Okay, so for truly oceanside, I love the Beach House Grill at the Chatham Bars Inn.
Yes.
I love the restaurant at the Madison Beach Hotel. These are all places where you are on the water, literally on the water. Two Lights, the Lobster Shack at Two Lights in Cape Elizabeth, Maine. The waves are crashing against the rocks. It's dramatic. Lighthouses, beautiful. Salties for a good deal. Salties at Second Beach in Newport. You get 2 lobsters at lobster rolls at a very reasonable price. And the Sandbar at Jetties in Nantucket is sort of the best of both worlds. You have this beautiful beach, but you've got great cocktails and really good food, and it's very civilized and really lovely.
Sounds amazing. I mean, lobster rolls, you know, anywhere. So there must be some tremendous lakeside restaurants.
Well, lakeside resorts, because you're going to get restaurants at these resorts. Pickering House Inn on Lake Winnipesaukee. It's this historic 10-room historic inn right near right near the lake.
Not on the...
Well, you know, it's near the lake. You have a lake sense.
Right.
The lodge at Moosehead Lake, which is a beautiful romantic getaway. You're on this giant lake in New England. It matches adventure and sort of relaxation, you know, and you can go out on moose safaris, but you can also, you know, have a very romantic dinner. And then Migas Lake Lodge on Sebago Lake in Maine, which has, Amy's going to shudder here, they have their own lobster bake right on the shores of the lake.
Oh, so they get the lobsters from the lake, huh?
Well, they just, they feel bad for some of the ocean people that are still getting used to sort of all the joys of being on a lake.
All right, so Ian specifically talked about resorts. What are the best oceanside resorts to you?
Okay, I would argue in Maine, the Cliff House in Agunquit, the Astiku Inn, and the Claremont up in Bar Harbor area. The Chatham Bars Inn in Massachusetts, the Wauquasit, the Winnetou, the Wauwinet, sorry.
Yeah, the Wauwinet
on Nantucket, right? The Ocean's Edge in Brewster. And then in Rhode Island, you've got the Cliff House, the Inn at Castle Hill, some really amazing inn properties. And in Connecticut, the Madison Beach Hotel is really wonderful right on the water.
We do have an embarrassment of riches around here. I've got to say, okay, so for our 30-second final thoughts, Ian, this time we'll begin with you.
Well, I would just say that when Rob Sagendorf founded Yankee Publishing 90 years ago, this September, he founded it near one of the special lakes in New Hampshire, Dublin Lake. And why? Because he knew in the future some prominent senior editor on Yankee Magazine, Amy, would come into the office of her colleague, me, and ask every summer if we could have a staff retreat, a staff getaway at his lake house.
Interesting. Interesting that's where she prefers to go. A place that looks like on Golden Pond with Henry Fonda and Katharine Hepburn.
Exactly.
One of those pretty cottages. And Amy, your final argument for the ocean.
My friend and colleague across the aisle did point that out, but I would say that if I could persuade my lake-loving colleagues to come to the beach, I would much prefer to have a staff retreat at the beach. But I'm going to end with a quote from Isak Dinesen, who said it best. The cure for anything is salt water, sweat, tears, or the sea.
Wow, poetic, beautiful. We here at WBZ will take neither side. We will let our viewers decide for themselves. Amy Traverso, senior food editor from Yankee Magazine, and Ian Aldrich, the executive editor of Yankee Magazine. Thank you so much for joining us for this fun and cordial debate. Have a great summer, everybody, no matter where you go.